Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Azren here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's YouTube video and, of course, podcast episode. Yesterday, I sat down and recorded a video and a podcast where I tried to tell the truth. I tried to be vulnerable, and I tried to share what was on my mind, what was on my heart. I've been doing this as a regular daily practice on my blog, which I actually have open to the left of me. If you want to follow that, you're welcome to. It's Azren.substack.com, AZREN.substack.com. You can follow it there. And it's been incredibly helpful in my own life. It's given me clarity as to who I am, more clarity as to who I am as a person. I've gotten to know myself. I've gotten to be more productive, interestingly. I have fewer. I've been able to examine the beliefs that I have in my mind, let go of the beliefs that are not serving me, and or let go of beliefs that are just not necessarily true. Going through this process, I've realized how much I just don't know as well. I've realized how many knowledge gaps that I have. I'm not as smart as I thought I was. I'm just not. I don't have as much knowledge as I thought I did. I don't know myself as well as I thought I did. There's so much I just don't know. There's so many things that I thought were definitely true, and turns out that they were not true. There were things that I thought I would do, and that doing that would lead to XYZ results. And when I did those things, the results were wildly different. So I've come to realize that, wow, the way I was acting before just wasn't working. It was working to an extent, but it wasn't fully working. The way I was living before, the choices I was making, the beliefs I had, the way I spoke, my way of being as a general whole, it led to, in most areas of my life, it led me to having B-level results. Did I talk about this on my YouTube and podcast? Maybe. I don't actually know. I wrote about it a couple days ago. It led me to having B-level results. B-level results means this. Well, it means that I was at adequate results in most aspects, in most areas of my life. I had good friendships, good social life, moderately successful career, somewhat healthy. That's not true. Somewhat active, but not in great shape. I eat somewhat healthily. I sleep really well, so that's a good one, I suppose. But I sleep well, which is good. But in most areas of my life, many different areas of my life, I have B-level results. One of the only areas of my life where I have A-level results or A+ level results is language, because I spent 15 plus years of my life taking that part of my life very seriously. And so I have A+ level results in that part of my life. And I would like to have more areas of my life, maybe just one or two areas of my life where I can have an A+ results. It makes me think a lot about perfectionism, because I think I have the opposite, not the opposite. I have a different problem from those who are perfectionists. If you are a perfectionist, it means that you try to have A+ level results in every aspect of your life. The problem, in the way I see it, and maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please tell me, because I've learned recently how many things I'm just wrong about and I have full confidence about. So please tell me if I'm wrong. But the way I see it, there just isn't enough time in a day to do everything at an A+ level. There just isn't enough time. Now, if you only have a couple of things on your plate, maybe it's possible to have A+ level results in every aspect of your life. Maybe that is possible. I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? But in my life, I know with the number of things I have, it's very difficult for me to have an A+ level in my health. Because boy, that would mean that I need to be super strong. Every single muscle, I'm in the top percentile, top 10 of the people who are the most fit, and pay attention to everything I eat. That'd be an A+ in terms of health. A+ in terms of language means I really nail my languages. I speak them all incredibly fluently. And A+ in terms of my work would mean that I make a lot I make way more money than most people in my age bracket and my age bracket and my region, and I have a very fulfilling career. A+ in family means that, boy, I spend real quality time with my family and I treat them so well, and I pay so much attention to how I behave with the family. If you look at every category of life, it's incredibly, I don't know if it's possible to have an A+ in lots of different categories. So the problem that a perfectionist has is that they try to have an A+ level results in all categories of their life. And my problem, the way I see it, and please tell me if I'm wrong, good God, maybe I'm wrong about this, but the way I see it is, the problem I have is I have most aspects of my life that are Bs. I have one aspect that's an A+, and even now it's more of a B because I don't spend as much time on it. But I would like to have some more A+ aspects of my life. Okay, so I forget how we got on that topic. I have no idea. But yesterday I sat down and recorded a video about how I felt like I wasn't on the right pathway in my life, particularly professionally, but personally to an extent too. I just didn't really explore the personal avenue. It's difficult because one of the things that I'm trying to figure out, one of the things that I try to balance, and I don't. Okay, number one, I feel very self-conscious on camera and in podcast format talking about these kinds of things. The primary reason I feel self-conscious is because I'm not doing this in writing. When I do it in writing, when I fumble on my words, you don't see that. I just delete it. I can reread what I wrote and make sure it's true. When I make something in video format or podcast format and I commit to just sitting down and recording, shooting, whatnot, I feel self-conscious because I don't know, because a part of me wants you to watch the whole thing, right? Another part of me, I don't really know why I'm making these videos, and I don't think I truly understand why I make these videos, these kinds of videos, these kinds of podcasts, particularly on the blog posts, because I'm making a lot of those. I don't really know why I'm doing it. I haven't quite figured that out. All I know is that it feels important. And maybe it's something like this. I was watching a video with Theo Von and Joey Diaz. I think his real name is Jose. I can't remember, but anyway. And Joey Diaz has this great part of the podcast, this quote that summarized a few things that I've been feeling lately in my life, which is that Joey Diaz had woken up at one point and he realized that what he was doing was not working. His default decision-making process, was the default way of making decisions, was not leading to the results that he wanted to have in his life. In his case, his default decisions were leading to drugs. He was stealing from people. At some point, he was homeless. I don't exactly know what results he was looking for. I don't quite know, but I know a little bit about his life based on podcasts I've listened to. And the decisions he was making were not leading to the results that he actually consciously wanted for himself. And I think I've also realized that myself too, that the decisions I'm making have over the past, in my adult life, let's say, not even the entire adult life, but probably, it's really hard to say, but for a certain period of my adult life, the decisions that I have been making have not led to the results that I would ideally want. And so there's that. There's also the side of, there's also this. I've got to say, this is quite interesting to me. On my last night in Taiwan, I sat down and just wrote this blog post. And I didn't filter it. I just wrote. I wrote what I thought. I wrote what I felt, and I hit send. I reread it, and I made sure that there were no typos or things like that. But there were things I wrote, and I thought to myself, I don't know if that should be included in there. Ugh. That's uncomfortable. Ugh, maybe that's too much information. Ugh, maybe that's not well written. Ugh, maybe this, maybe ugh. And I just thought, I'm just gonna hit send and see what happens. And the response, I got lots of responses. I got more responses on that blog post than I've ever had before. It resonated with people on a much deeper level than anything I'd ever posted, probably ever, over 10 years of making content on the internet, 7 years language learning stuff, 3 years before that I was making content on something else. So that was interesting. The next day on the flight, I wrote a blog post publicly and I sent it to my family about how I felt about my family. Or rather, that's not true. I wrote down how I felt when I was with my family as a group. And I sent it to them. I was going to see my family at a big family dinner immediately upon landing. So it's like, hey, send this. Now I'm going to be here and I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of sending that. Essentially what I wrote was, I wrote how I felt uncomfortable when I was with my family. I didn't feel like I was myself. I felt like I was a weak version of myself, a timid version of myself, a shy version of myself. I specifically wrote the line, I felt like a piece of furniture with my family. I wrote all these things in there. And I sent it. And I thought that there would be a big reaction. I didn't know what the reaction would be, but I thought that there would be a consequence for doing so. Because that was 10 years, God, I don't know, more than 10 years, 15 years, something like that, maybe more than that. 15 years, many years of emotions, bam, written out and shared with the people that what? The people towards whom I have those feelings for. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. And nothing really happened. That was the thing. Everyone, like, first of all, that letter I wrote didn't get around to everyone, first and foremost. But it got around to some people, and the reaction was pretty chill. They're like, oh, okay, all right. Good to know, man. Yeah, we never viewed you that way. We never thought you were that way. Or, oh, good for you for realizing that. And that was it. It wasn't a big reaction at all. And then I was acting different. I was acting more like myself with my family. And again, it wasn't all that different. Even though I was acting in my mind quite differently, it felt roughly the same. And nothing happened. That's what blew my mind, because I would have thought for most of my life, for 10 plus years, if you'd asked me, hey, if you write a letter like that and send it to your family, what's going to happen? I would have said, I don't know what's going to happen, but boy, that's scary. And boy, that might explode in my face. Not explode in my face, but it will have some kind of an emotional reaction. And it just didn't. It was a very minor emotional reaction. Some people didn't react at all. Some people didn't even read it. And when I acted differently with my family, they didn't behave differently towards me. And I thought that they would. So that happened. So I thought to myself, wow, I wrote one letter, or rather one blog post, publicly about how I was feeling on the last day of Taiwan, and that struck a chord in lots of people. I then wrote something else, something that struck a deep chord within me, made me sweat, that was incredibly difficult to confront. Sent it, and I thought that there'd be an extreme reaction. And there wasn't. And I was like, clearly my idea of what happens when you tell the truth and when you're honest is way off from what actually happens when you're honest and tell the truth and be vulnerable. Clearly, when I do that, I don't know what, I think I know what's going to happen, and I just don't. The first thing I wrote to everybody, I didn't know what was going to happen, and it turned out to strike a deep chord. The second thing to my family, I thought I'd have a deep reaction, and it really just didn't, but it made things way better, and I shed this very heavy weight that I had on top of me. And then I've continued to do this. I've continued to try and live honestly, vulnerably, be honest with myself, be honest with others, realize where I'm way less knowledgeable than I think I am, that I pretend to be, than I say to myself that I am, examining the thoughts and beliefs that live in my head. And everything's different. Everything's different. Everything's different. Maybe I'll tell you what things are different. Maybe I'll tell you a few things. Well, first of all, my way of speaking is different. My way of speaking is different to people in my life. I'm way more direct, way more comfortable. I get to the point. I use less words. A lot of downward inflection in my sentences. I'm more productive. I get more done than I used to. I learn faster than I used to. I hear something, resonates, and I act on it faster than I used to. I've acknowledged and publicly shared big dreams that I have, even though they sound absolutely crazy to me and I don't know if they're possible. I'm willing to set bigger goals, whereas in the past I wasn't. I kept my goals small in the past because I was scared of failing and missing them, so I'd keep them small. That's changed. I've prioritized more than I used to. I stopped using a Google that's not true. I've stopped living based on a calendar, which I've done for 12, 13 years. I work less than I've worked. Is that true? Is that true? I work less hours than I've ever worked in 13 years, and yet I wonder if I actually get more done. Okay, well, let's say this is true. This for sure is true. I finish work earlier in the evenings than I have in 13 years. That's interesting. A lot has changed. A lot has just changed in my life. I feel quite different as well. It's uncomfortable making this kind of video, this kind of podcast. I think I referenced it earlier that when I write, it's concise. I can get the words out. I can pick the right words. I can in 3 minutes of your time, you can get what I've said in 18 minutes. I could probably distill into a 3-minute read on a blog post. Easy to read, easy to consume. On video and podcast, I have to pause, think, scan through my body, check what feels true, what doesn't feel true, to take more time to think and get my thoughts out. Does that make sense? And it's uncomfortable because, well, here's something else that's very uncomfortable for me to share. I clearly want people to consume the content that I make. Yes, I clearly want people to consume the content that I make. I don't like how I feel about that. I don't like how that makes me feel. I feel like maybe that's self-centered. And the reason that I don't like sitting, making a 19-minute video and podcast, of course, too, like this, because I don't like it that it takes me time to find the right words to say the right things about what I want to say. Does that make sense? It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable me sitting here in silence trying to think of the right words. I'd much rather come on the camera, be sharp, to the point, have the right words, get them out quickly. I'd much rather do that. I feel like it's better. That's why I like the blog posts, right? I can be concise, to the point. We get there quick, right? You get the punchline. I feel like if I'm doing that, if I'm to the point, concise, useful to you, valuable to you, helpful to you, it's better for you. This isn't what I'm doing now. Isn't, there's a dichotomy, because I want. Listen, there's a few different elements to break down here. I want people to watch, listen, and read what I have to say. That's selfish. I don't know if that's selfish is the right word, but that's self-centered. At the same time, I want people to listen, read, and consume, and listen, watch, consume, essentially. I want people to consume the stuff that I make, and I want it to be helpful to you, valuable to you. I want to be of service to you. So those are they're not in conflict with each other. They're not. Because if I'm of service to you, then more people are going to watch and listen and such. And it's incredibly uncomfortable for me, because I feel like the stuff that I make, content, videos, podcasts, blog posts, all that stuff, I feel like that that's not true. I've told myself that the content I'm making is very helpful for the people that are watching, but in reality, I don't. There's an idea that I heard from Jordan Peterson, that ideas have people and people don't have ideas. So ideas possess people, they possess us, and we act out an idea. I don't know what idea I was acting upon. I don't know what idea was in my unconscious mind when I was making content before. Partially it was, I thought if I make content, that will help my business grow. If I just talk and make content for the sake of making content, and I focus just on the volume, that will help my business grow. And maybe there is a certain amount of truth to that. I don't know. Maybe, probably. But now I feel that I I'm putting more attention on trying to create content that's helpful to people who are watching. In terms of language learning, in terms of not language learning, I don't really care, but it's helpful to you. And I don't know if a video or a podcast like this is helpful. Like, I honestly don't know. I just don't know. That's a good place to end this off. That's a good place to end this. I don't know what this was. Thank you for watching. If you did watch until now, thank you for listening. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm doing. But that's what I made today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk next time. Bye-bye.